All right. All right, guys, welcome to Treehouse Talks, where I sit in my son's treehouse and talk into the void. And you know what I'm gonna do? Because I don't like this angle, I'm going to tilt it down just a little bit. There we go, that'll work. Then I'm gonna scoot all the way back because I do not like being so close up. All right, there we go. All right. Do I like that angle? Not really. It makes me look fat. Of course, if I don't want to look fat, then, well, do something about it. How about that? Yeah. How about that? All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I guess that's a little bit better. I'm having to make do with what I got because, well, I mean, I'm just recording this with my phone. So, all right. So, here we go. As soon as I turn on the video, all brain activity ceases to exist. Why did I come on here? Oh yeah, okay. So I want to talk in my treehouse talk. I want to talk today about, I am going to get this angle right, come hell or high water. Okay. I want to talk today about something that is just now starting to be explored, okay? So here's the thing. We all know that we are just now beginning to see the harmful effects of a whole generation that has been that has grown up on viewing online porn, okay? These are not your Playboy magazines, okay? With just a simple search, you can see it all, hear it all. I mean, anything you want to see, anything, okay? And it's out there, okay? My parents' generation, and they talk about this, they grew up on a much less in-your-face kind of exposure, okay? It was not your, it was not your internet porn that there is out there today. It was your Playboy magazine, okay? It was boobs and shadows, okay? And it was so mild that it was not like, I don't want to say mild, and there is no tolerable level, comfortable, okay level of porn. Porn is porn is porn. Lust is lust is lust, okay? It's all horrendous, it's all sinful, and it's all bad, okay? But make no mistake, there is a very clear difference between seeing a still image and just one part of a female's body versus all parts of a female body that it's a motion picture with audio, okay? But that's neither here nor there, and that's really not even what I wanted to talk about, okay? We all understand now, and the research backs us up, that pornography, I said I wasn't going to say the whole word, okay? I'm not some 60-year-old librarian, okay? It's porn. Porn, okay? It's porn. So, we all understand the harms of porn, okay? We get that, and the research backs us up, okay? Even the secular world are now starting to even admit that, like, yeah, this stuff, overindulgence in this stuff is bad for the mind, okay? And I've talked about it on this channel before. But, oh, dadgummit. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, I'm going to be right back. All right, are we back? All right, let's get this plugged up here. Here we go. I love this. I mean, I know everybody wants to talk about DJI, but I'll tell you, people they're still all up over DJI have never tested Rode products. They are the leaders when it comes to mobile audio, and that's just undisputed fact. Okay, so what was I trying to share? Okay, yeah. So we all know that we have basically tarnished a whole generation of young boys with the accessibility and the prevalence of online porn, okay? And yes, as much as it kills me to admit, even me, I've struggled in this area, and still to this day, I catch myself tripping and falling over things I shouldn't be looking at on the internet, okay? But by God's grace, He can break every chain, and with His help, you can conquer every sin that's holding you captive. Amen? Amen. Okay, so, all right. So have I made my point? Generation of young men has been tarnished because of online pornography. Okay, so you ask, well, Dave, you know, I believe in Newton's law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so what's the opposite of men? Women. Okay, so what's the opposite of men? Women. Okay, what's the opposite of pornography? Librarian. What's the opposite of porn? If men have porn, what's the female equivalent? Well, it's smut. Okay, romantasy. Okay, and yes, it is true that that there is a difference to an extent. Okay, you know, there's hardcore porn, and the website with the I think I have a clip here. Maybe I'll post it. So we all know what that is, but then there's other, you know, movies that are not what we typically think of as porn, but they're mainstream movies that might as well be, okay? Like Good Luck Chuck, Hostel, American Pie, okay? These are all movies that, by and large, are not what most people think of when they say the word porn, but for what it's worth, I mean, they might as well be, okay? So there's smut, right? Which is, you know, clearly, you know, the the porn equivalent. But then there's also romantasy, which is more like what you would like, more like Good Luck Chuck, Hostel, and American Pie. These are books that are not necessarily known for smut, but they have the same effect, and I'll go into that in just a minute, okay? So I have here in my hand a coin, okay? On the one hand, you have a man, and like we've been talking about, more than likely he has grown up viewing you know, various porn sites, and has basically rotted out and tarnished his brain into you know, because of the massive amounts of dopamine. See, here's the thing. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to go there yet. Okay, so you have the man who has been addicted to porn and has grown up with it all of his teenage and young adult life and still struggles with it today. But then also the flip side of that coin is you have the females. Now, I remember in 2008 and 2009, you had the movie 50 Shades of Grey. And it came out and it was a blockbuster hit. I mean, I remember walking in the halls and people were reading this, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what is up with this book, right? And I've never seen the movie. I've only heard about it. But from what I do know, it's basically, this whole, idea that this young girl is swept up off her feet and it's, all these things. But you know what the sad part is now you got books like Get a Life, Chloe Brown and Morning Glory Milking Farm that are so graphic and salacious that 50 Shades of Grey isn't even in the same ballpark. Okay? 50 Shades of Grey is like the magazines that I was talking about that our parents watched. They were just the boobs and shadows. Morning Glory Milking Farm and Get a Life, Chloe Brown are the, porn website when it comes to books. Okay? And yet, it's so accepted now. Okay? It's so accepted. Why? I don't know. But it is. But I'm not here to debate whether it should be accepted or what it is. What I want to talk about specifically today is, in short order, I want to talk about, is it good for society? Okay? Is it harmful for women, and especially young girls, to be reading this junk? Okay? And obviously, by my choice of words, you can see where I stand on this issue, but I'm going to explain why, okay? Now, what is her name? Jenna Dangerfield, or whatever her name is. She goes into a lot more detail, and I'll link a link to her video below. But also, Shoe on Head talks about this issue. Okay, and so I think people's eyes are starting to be opened. But basically, in large part, my stance is, and a lot of other people, is that whether it is as harmful as mainstream porn or not, the brain research, the fMRI of what part of the brain what parts of the brain are lighting up when females engage and really dive into this book are the same areas of the brain that light up when men view pornography, okay? And many women, and maybe if you're watching this, you can comment below, but many women report as soon as the story is over, they feel a deep sense of loss and resentment because the story is over. Their brain has been hijacked when they're reading this stuff. It's literally been hijacked just like a man's brain has been hijacked to look at pornography. Librarian, to look at porn. When a woman gets involved in these stories and she's reading it and she's turning pages and she begins to feel, and this isn't thus saith David, this is the research saying this, she begins to feel a connection with these characters. She begins to relate to the girl and to the man and all these things, and the same areas of the brain that light up when a man views porn are the same areas of the female brain that are lighting up when she reads this and gets into these stories, okay? And your brain is not a toy, okay? I'm glad that we live in a day and age where we have modern medicine. I'm glad that we have what they call EMDR. I really believe, and you couldn't beat it out of me with a ball bat, that EMDR has saved my life. Had I not had my mental health treatment, at the time I did, I'm not sure that I'd still be here. I really believe that, truly, honestly. So I am glad that we have so many advances in neurology and psychology and how the brain functions. But if we're not careful, people who know how the brain works, men and women, can use their talent and their skill set for something that is harmful. And this is what's really tricky. Men, including myself, that have struggled with pornography, librarian, that have struggled with porn, all report a deep sense of depression, loneliness, anxiety, and loss when they're trying to break the habit, okay? It's literally, it is absolutely no different from a brain science standpoint of when you do a hit of heroin or crack cocaine. Your body was never ever designed to receive dopamine and endorphins in that high dose. There's really nothing in biology that replicates the amount of endorphins that you get when you look at porn, okay? So it feels good. The problem is, if you're never designed to experience that, there's an old saying, what comes up must come down. So porn hijacks your brain, and now you have seen all these things that have activated all these pleasure sensors in the brain, and your brain feels great, and you have a rush, and you feel good, and you feel unstoppable, and just all these things, right? But then you take it away, and instantly you feel guilty. You feel like you're dirty. You feel a sense of depression and loss. You feel like people know what you did. You're on edge. You have anxiety. You know, they may have no reason to believe of what you do behind closed doors, but yet your brain is now on high alert because you think they know, okay? So it's not good for your brain. Your brain is not a toy. You're not supposed to ever reach endorphin and dopamine levels that high, okay? So yes, it does feel good, but it's harmful in the grand scheme of things. Okay? But it's not only harmful to you from a mental health standpoint, not trying to be gross or too graphic here, but you now have a lot of young men who are unable to perform when it comes down to a real, tangible person, because they have such desensitized themselves that anything that is natural or found that you would typically, a situation that you would typically find yourself in, is now not enough to get you excited, and you can't perform. So it's not only harmful mentally, depression, anxiety, loneliness, but it's not good for you physically. Okay? So and here's the biggest part, and this is what I really wanted to say, and I'm going, I don't know why I'm getting so long-winded on this issue, but I mean, it's just something that I guess I'm passionate about. But here's the thing, okay? And this is what I really believe is the most harmful when it comes to porn, and we're gonna relate that to that, okay? Because like I said, every coin has two sides, right? So if you watch pornography, librarian, If you watch porn, you know that you will never, ever hear the little word no. You're not going to hear no, okay? These movies manufacture the most out-of-pocket scenarios, right? And it may be for entertainment. I don't know what it is, okay? But, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you think about it. You hire a plumber, right? And you open the door and it's some 19, 20-year-old girl with boobs popping out the top of her lingerie. And he says, "Hey, I'm here to plug a hole." And she goes, "Oh, I don't know. Where is the hole? I guess we're going to have to figure out where it's wet." And he goes, "Oh, well, let me see. Let me check out, where is the wetness coming from? Then I'll be able to find the hole." I mean, honestly, do you know anybody? Have you ever had that kind of interaction? Nobody talks like that. Okay? Nobody talks like that. That is fantasy. That is made up smoke and mirrors for entertainment purposes. Nobody actually talks like that. Okay? I mean, seriously. I mean, don't try to look like something's wrong with me. Nobody really ever talks like that. Okay? And nobody goes to repair anything inside of a house and is underneath the sink, and then the next thing they know, they come out from underneath the sink and there's a naked girl standing in front of them. I mean, that's never gonna happen, okay? And yet, people, boys especially, have such desensitized themselves and have distorted reality so much that they begin to think, well, maybe it might. I mean, I've seen it in the movies, okay? And even me, like, I mean, I don't want to say too much, but yes, I mean, there have been times where I catch myself thinking, I'm like, what if this were to happen, or what if this situation would turn out this way? It's like, no, that's never going to happen. Like, that's so far from anything in reality that would ever happen to you, okay? You're a fool for even thinking that way. Okay, cool. So, just to recap, in porn, you're never going to hear the word no. And you're always going to see fantasy, like actors that find themselves in the most bizarre, out-of-pocket scenarios, right? But we know that that's not reality. Okay, so relating that to that, in these romantasy books, you have these guys who roll out the red carpet for these girls, and they're these, like, girls, and it's always like the same scenario where she's like down on her luck, and she's like, can't make ends meet, and she's in a new town where she doesn't know anybody, and she doesn't know who can help her, and all these things, and she drops something on the sidewalk as she's walking to work because her car broke down, and she just can't make her way. No matter what she tries in this world, she just can't make her way. She drops something on the sidewalk, and oh my goodness, it's this guy. He's got big, strong muscles, cute blue eyes, hair slicked back, and he's got a face full of hair. He looks like masculine, but he's got a nice pressed shirt, buttoned down, and he just looks like the man. And believe it or not, he is like one of the town billionaires, and he picks the thing up before she has a chance to grab it, hands it to her, and their eyes catch, and they, oh my goodness. And now here he comes, he sweeps her off her feet, and then it's this love story where she's just so infatuated by him, and he just can't get enough of her, and it's just like, just the connection and the feeling is just so great, and he never is ugly to her, and he's just always just such a gentleman, and blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I see what's going on here, right? I see. And if you notice where I'm going with this, then you understand that just like my wife is never going to pretend to be the damsel in distress, and it's, hey honey, here's a pipe wrench, here's some, tools. Why don't you, let's do a little scenario of, where you're the plumber and the plumber's gotta, find the leaking hole and fill it. Like, just like that is never gonna happen to me. No matter how much, which I don't, but even if I did, no matter how much I'd want that to happen to me, which I don't. But even if I did, that's never gonna happen, because that's just not based in any sort of reality. The girls are reading this stuff, and it's hijacking their brain, and it's making them think that if this could happen to this girl in this story, maybe, just maybe, it could happen to me, right? And even if you're married, it's still harmful, because husbands, if you have been married for longer than 2 days, if you watch any rom-com or your wife reads any of these style books, it's just a matter of time before your wife says, read this, chapter right here, read this paragraph. Now, why don't you ever do that for me? Why don't you ever act like that? And it's like, I want to know, in how many of these books does it explain in graphic detail how she's got the throw up virus and he's cleaning up her throw up off the carpet? Okay? I want to know how many times in these books that he's working, 80 hours a week, doing everything he can to try to make ends meet for his family, because they are going through a rough patch, and he needs all the money he can get because they got a lot of bills and they're behind on things, and this is not working out, and blah, 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 blah. And she reaches out to him because she needs love and affection, and he turns away and says, honey, not now, I'm busy working. I want to know how many times you will hear that in these books. Not never. You know why? Because that is not glamorous, okay? That doesn't engage the part of the female mind that keeps these women wanting to buy these books, right? In these books, all you see and find and all these things are just love and romance, and just the woman being swept off of her feet by the super nice guy, and he just he pulls out all the stops, and just everything is just perfect, and just, oh my goodness, it's just amazing, right? But that's not reality, and that to me is the most harmful part of all. It's not so much that it's real graphic in nature. Of course, that's bad too. But men are wired visually, okay? And so there's a whole industry out there that has figured out how to toy with the male brain, and has how to hijack their brain, okay? And now what was supposed to be just sacred between a man and a wife is now being distorted and hijacked and all these different things, so that a industry can make a profit off of you. They know it's addictive. They know it gives you a massive dopamine hit, which will keep you coming back for more and more, and they want to make money off of you, okay? Not only that, they get, so here's the trade deal. They get all of your money, and you get anxiety, depression, loneliness, and an inability to perform. Right? Great. Sounds like a good deal? Yeah? Huh? Okay. So that's the male deal. Okay? Let's talk about the other side. You get a sense of anxiety, depression, a sense of grief and loss when the story is over, and expectations that no man ever will ever be able to meet up to. Okay? And I don't care how you slice it. One is visual, the other one is words on a page, but you know what? They're both distorting reality. Okay? This is why, and look, I'm fixing to close because I've said all I need to say. But one last thing I want to say is, do you know why people in affairs are so, when they get entrapped in one, they say, oh, this guy, this girl, whatever the case may be, my affair partner has made me feel alive. I have a huge rush. I get butterflies when I see them. They're just perfect. I've been with my husband for 25 years, and yet I'm feeling things that I hadn't felt in years. I can't imagine my life without them. They're the perfect person for me. You know, I know I built a life and raised kids and done all the things that I've done with this person, but now this person has made me feel alive. You know why? They say all these things, and no doubt, I'm not saying that those feelings aren't valid. Of course they're valid, okay? We know that the people that report feeling these things when they get in these affairs, of course that's what they feel, or they wouldn't say that, okay? But you know why they say that? It's because the thrill, the exhilaration is they have dopamine, and they have dopamine and a rush and the thrill and having someone pursue you, and everything's new, and you got new hormones raging, because at the beginning of a relationship, when you have the newness and the exhilaration, and you feel pursued and you feel wanted and you feel like someone cares, all of these things are real hormones that you're experiencing. But you know what? After you've been with them for a while, those feelings start to wane. What was new now becomes routine. And, you know, when my wife calls me, I love you, honey. When my wife calls me, man, when she used to call me, when I'd see her name light up on my phone, I'd be, yes, honey, how are you? I'd get so, just the thrill of having another person interested in how my day was going and what was going on. That was such a big rush for me. Now, when my wife calls me, it's just routine, okay? And any psychotherapist, psychologist will tell you that there is a big difference between being in love and falling in love. Okay, when you're falling in love, it's like a skydive. It's thrilling, and you know, is it going to work out? Is it not? It's, you know, it's just the big rush, and it's just adrenaline and good feelings and endorphins and dopamine and all these things. And then you land safely on the ground, and of course you're happy to be on the ground, but it's just, yeah, that was fun. Okay, and so all these things. Now you have an affair partner, and they say, he's the perfect man. He makes me feel things that I hadn't felt in years, blah, 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 blah. Or, I mean, you know, same thing on the other side. She's the perfect woman. She makes me feel things that I hadn't felt in years. She makes me feel alive. I'm feeling things with her that I'm feeling things that I didn't think I could feel at 55 years old or whatever age, okay? And do you know why they all say that? Because anyone can be the perfect person for 3 hours a week. If you're meeting at hotels 3 days a week for 1 hour at a time, obviously when I'm sitting here in my treehouse and I'm sweating and, you can see all my sweat marks and I'm, got man titties, yes, of course I'm not the perfect man, but I bet you if I take a shower, I put on some nice clothes, and I do my hair up real good, I bet you I could be the perfect man for an hour. The problem with affairs and these books and porn, they all have the same underlying thing. It's that it's not reality, okay? I guarantee you, if you move in with your affair partner, you say, you know what, the hell with this marriage, I'm out of here, I'm divorcing, blah, 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 I'm gonna go start a new life with my affair partner. I guarantee you within 2 years, you will realize that they are not the person that you thought they were in the beginning. Because now you got kids and, you got bills and you got, is it going to work out? Is it not? Hey, honey, can we do this tonight? No, I'm sorry. I got to be up early in the morning. Plus, I don't want to take a shower and blah, 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 blah. And all the things that you just could not stand in your marriage, boom, now getting transferred over to your new marriage, but this time it's worse, okay? There's the 80-20 rule, which basically says that you're never, ever, ever going to have all your needs met in any one person, okay? But we know from psychology and years of research that people that don't have their guard up will have 80% of their needs met in this marriage, and they will leave to go find the other 20% in someone else. But if they leave that 80% for that 20 and they try to start a new life with that person, guess what? They'll probably only get 40 or 50% of their needs met. Okay? That's why I will never, ever, ever develop an emotional connection with the opposite sex. I have done that in the past, and it also cost me my marriage, and instantly I wanted to know how a church-going altar boy who knew the Bible cover to cover, backwards and forwards, how I could get within an inch of being unfaithful to my wife. And I have studied this issue, this topic, for years and years and years, and I now know, and I will break my neck to educate other people, because I can tell you, and thank God everything worked out how it did, but I can tell you it is so unwise to leave what you got, okay? God brought y'all two together for a reason. Stick with that person. But getting back on subject, it's not healthy for men to look at porn. It's not healthy for women to read romantasy, okay? Do y'all know what I mean when I say romantasy? It's romance fantasy, okay? And that's exactly what it is, okay? You can put whatever colorful words on it. It's a romance novel. Oh, it's this, oh, it's this. But what is it really, okay? It's hijacking the female brain, picking at things that they know that the women want, and setting them up for failure. Not failure, but setting them up for unrealistic expectations. And it's romantasy, okay? And it's not healthy. It's not healthy. If you don't believe me, check the link in the below, Jennifer Dangerfield or whatever her name is, she goes in more in detail as far as the brain science and exactly why it's not just, oh, I'm just reading this fun book. It's actually why it's actually harmful. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to me talk into the void. Join me next time on another episode of Treehouse Talk. For now, I'm David Bass. We'll see you next time.